hop in the game. Mid-range red versus, wow, Apex. Something we haven't
Affect!
seen in a long time.
Nice. Our
Well, actually,
namesake.
I say that, but we saw it last game, right? Last game, Unbounds into Apex.
Oh yeah. Two in fact. Might be more than we see this game. I think we are obliged by our team name to cheer for NyCkiTT here.
I mean, I really like his starting hand. It actually looks good for him.
Yeah, though this is a tough matchup. It's interesting that he study shells to the same side. I think that's normally wrong, but when you have a Gabriel enchantment in hand, it's rather better.
Yeah, because his next land is going to be really awkward. He has to either forest backwards or move the sturdy shell backwards or just forward awkwardly forward from his lake.
I mean, you want to stall, so I think you should be landing to the other side with your forests.
Windfall.
Okay, so that's a bit of a Actually, no, that's probably standard now because with Apex costing 7, people have been trying it in shells with mochis.
Yeah, but normally when they do that shell, they don't run like Flower Silk Fairies. Instead, they go for like a Mochi Lore Thief Windfall shell.
Well, I guess we'll see.
Yeah. Okay, so from Alvendor, it looks like his best line is probably just going to be to Mountain and play the Shine and Pest.
Yeah, which is fine against the Gabriel enchantment we know is coming. From I think what would Alvendor's optimal line have been here if he could choose from his entire deck? Probably Outland Ranger and Silent Horsemaster, right? That would have been pretty sweet. Oh, the Ground Shaker. Okay, that's actually cool. Um, so I mean, he's probably going to immediately kick himself when the fairy comes down, but this does survive Gabriel enchantment,
Well,
and
something that's weird about it though is it dies to Mythmaker.
mm, how bad is Mythmaker? I mean, you can ciphers in response, so it's okay. So it's bad against Mythmaker, but it's better than the Shadim Pest against Enchant, which is probably the more common line. And how bad is Shadim versus Double Eldwood Embrace?
But if your opponent enchants a shell and trades into Pest and it's an even trade, then that's favoring the red player because he's scaling from that trade, and it's a 4 fairy versus 4 fairy exchange, but 2 cards, or 1 card, just the enchantment cycles.
That's fair.
But
I,
yeah,
I,
it
I
seems to be
don't
in
hate,
favor of the red player if that happens.
yeah, I don't hate NyCkiTT's line, but I think that if he knew his opponent had Flower Silk Fairy, he probably wouldn't have done it. I mean, it's hard though, because Apex is quite uncommon at the moment, so, you don't really know what they're playing anymore. That's interesting, so he didn't set up the fairy on the well. So what did he just deny? I guess he denied a double prairie.
Yeah, that was interesting because I don't know how he's planning on dealing with the ground shaker now. And I really like this line out of Alvendor. Instead of making the mountain to step in and collect and play a pest, he's just saying, you know what, I don't need that 1 Feria. The aggressive pest is going to matter more in this matchup.
Yeah, I was about to say that too. That was nice prioritization.
So NyCkiTT has the option of just playing Fairy and Phantasming it right away, which isn't too bad of a play. Like, you're spending 9 Feria for 2 5/5s. It's just that right now Ground Shaker is a 5/2, and I don't know if his deck has Banquets, so having these 5/5s isn't too great. Instead, he's
Yeah.
gonna gamble. Ground Shaker would have full
Oh my
cleared the board.
god.
Like, Pest hits into Willow, get
Uh,
the aggressive mountain, Ground Shaker, and just, like, win the game off that.
yeah, Alvendor has Pools of Steel, but I mean, it's not necessarily the wrong play. It's Yeah, it's one of those plays where you go, do I think my chance of winning if I play more standard is lower than the chance they have a ground shaker?
Yeah. It's like, is my chance of winning above 0% if I do this? It's like 3%? Okay, I'm going for it.
He, I think though for him that the windfall is not really paying off. Because he's in this really awkward spot where he needs to make lands for the apexes, but he also desperately needs cards. And Earthcraft is a very good answer.
Yeah. I mean, having the Phantasm as well is going to end up being pretty nice. Because he can Phantasm his now 1/1 Living Willow to trade in.
Yeah.
Not great, but it's something. He doesn't have too great of targets for his Apex Predator to begin with, though. He needs to find like a Living Willow, embrace it, and then Apex the embraced Willow for an ideal situation.
For the record, this isn't. I mean, NyCkiTT deck isn't a blue deck, but this kind of interaction is one of the reasons blue's been falling off, because red ends up with a lot of like 6/4s, 5/3s, etc. Just all these really high power but quite low toughness creatures, and blue can't punish them very well, which means often you see like 5/4s killing mirror phantasms and such. So all your trumps in other matchups just don't really line up perfectly. So
Yeah,
kind
and
of
then banqueting a Phantasm to kill like an Axe Grinder or something. It's your best play most of the time, but it's not the insane value that it is against some of the other matchups.
yeah, it's not as good as say killing an Archon in the mirror, where they just want to concede. Oh wow. Speaking of reasons why deck falls off, do you see all these 2 and 3 toughness creatures and the Apex Predator in NyCkiTT's hand? This is one of the reasons Apex is falling off.
It's even better when you're up against archers and you copy a Sagittarius' stats. Feels good, man.
Oh god. Yeah, I guess by the time they play Zealous, it's normally a bit late.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not completely over for NyCkiTT yet, because he could still find, like, Willow Feed into Willow Enchant. Sadly, he has to draw... No, he can't even do that. That's invalid.
What happens if you +1 and play Tethra? Doesn't really help.
Yeah, the Tetra play didn't seem good. I
He's
mean,
just
I think it was his best play in hand was to just
yeah,
play
but I guess
Tetra, but
good drawing means you might get a better play.
yeah.
Yeah, like I guess if you know that none of the plays you can currently do are possibly going to win you this game, you should just draw and pray.
He's gonna be sad. He's
Yep.
one off lethal. You just draw for lethal, right? I would draw here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it matters what you do, but... Well, could you have got lethal? Yes, you could have.
Well, Flame Burst, Cypher's Wrath.
What Cypher's lethal is? Yes,
Yeah.
it was. It was 7 toughness, right? Yeah. Oh, there's the Willow feed.
But unfortunately, he doesn't have the 4 fairy to cast it, so Alvendor will take game 1 of the series. Sadly, the Apex deck is not holding up to the standards that we would like.
Yeah, it's it. Sad.
So with blue-green now, I think we saw like a decent amount of good value blue cards, like we saw Unbounds. It's very likely he doesn't have mono blue now, right? So we
Yeah,
can expect some form of red deck and
it
then
have.
a yellow deck.
Yeah, I mean, he could also have green yellow sack, because you don't need to play Earthcrafts or Willows in that. And
Okay,
burn.
so
Always
yeah,
miss
the
that
red
one.
yellow burn. Do you think this one is going to be like some of the other ones that run Kalim, or do you think this is just going to be red plus 3 specters?
I can't tell just from looking at the hand so far. But I guess, I mean, if I have to guess, I would say it's probably just got Spectre and maybe Last Nightmare. I think that version seems more common. Also, what did Alvendor keep? Because I think I saw the Firestorm in his opener. Did he just mull it and get it back, or was he willing to keep that?
I looked away for a second and actually missed it.
Either way, his hand didn't develop that well.
Yep.
What do you think about NyCkiTT choosing to go the same direction as the red player, actually?
That is a bit weird to me, but when you're running cards like Grimguards and Fodders, like, you don't care if your Grimguard trades into a Fire Ellie or an Outland Ranger, assuming the Outland Ranger dies. I think you're okay to fight most of the time.
Yeah. It's gonna be decent here. And, I mean, that was a really good start. Like, the reason why Fire Elemental didn't see any play for so long was because it died to Soul Drain Cyphers and Shaitan Vampire. And kind of what brought it back was Vampire not being in the meta meant, yeah, you didn't get wrecked as hard. But, yeah, it still really sucks when it dies to a 2-mana spell.
Yeah. And I mean, one of the things that also brought it back into play was the fact that land progression is just so important now for Red, because Red has this really powerful engine with hate seeds, in the sense that it can just be like, hey, I'm going to be dropping axe grinders for 3 that are 5/4s, or pests for 4 that are 6/4s, and as long as I'm on your face doing this, I can probably just outvalue you and win.
Speaking of which, what does Alvendor do here? Does he need to make that land and take the axe grinder spot now? Should he just draw and hope for something with more than 2 toughness? He should probably not have played the elemental and then drawn last, but yeah.
Yeah, I was debating whether double landing on the left and then using the Fire Elite to get a mountain in front of the opponent's orb, whether that would have paid off, because then you have a bomb slinger spot and just an aggressive spot in general for Fireburner. I'm not sure the well spot matters for his hand, so I think I wouldn't have gone for the well spot.
So here NyCkiTT's getting kind of rewarded for going up the same side, because all of his creatures are getting to add their powers removal spells now, which is quite nice, and he's cut off Alvendor's land progression. Like, landlocks are interesting because See, like if all you're trying to do is lock someone's land, it normally doesn't work, but it's a very good addition to being able to kill all their creatures, because normally what the opponent needs is one of just free movement of their lands or creatures that can break your landlocks. It's sad for NyCkiTT he doesn't have one more mana. I would have really liked to be able to play. Wait, never mind. That's not his cycles. God damn it. So okay, so he actually is in a sort of awkward spot here. Good. Like, despite Alvendor's awkward start, he's beginning to take control of the board just because his average creature is so much stronger. Like, Grimguard is a 2/5 for 4 hate seed in, despite this being a bad showing for hate seed, it's a 4/5 for 4. So, much more stats points already. We'll see though, there's already pretty much 4 damage on board.
What do you think of Firestorm here? Firestorm allows him to kill off the Grimguard with Hate Seed, and it sets up Bloodsinger for next turn, a Ground Shaker play. Wait, he goes into 3/4. He can't quite Ground Shaker, I guess. That's a couple turns off.
I was thinking Ground Shaker was better, but I'm not sure. So Ground Shaker, you would have had a 5/6, but your opponent would have had a 4/2.
But then the fodder gets to hit into the Hate Seed.
Okay, and then you have a 5/6 versus nothing. I'm not sure. I guess this line lets you ciphers, which is pretty nice. In fact, it's going to work out quite well if the rebel slinger comes down. He just lands between the wells and ciphers both creatures.
Yeah.
Or
Now,
does he even cipher land between the well? Like maybe what you actually do is cipher the 2/2, step onto its land, finally get your aggressive land, and then cipher the 2/1. I think that's what I
I
would
don't
do.
think I prefer ciphering the 2-1. I think I prefer ciphering
Saving
like
the
the 2-2,
creature.
stepping up, hitting in with your creature, and then playing the aggressive mountain.
Oh, yeah, that's the point, because the opponent can't yet ground shaker it. Yeah, I like that actually. That's a really nice line. Yeah, because yeah, Alvendor's on 10. He's now in control of the board, so he needs to make something happen with this before he just gets burnt out.
How
Like I
big is this
mentioned,
Fireburner? 4/4?
for
Not
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 quite
good.
yet. The Shadim test's really good though. I think this is gonna largely come down to how many bomb slingers NyCkiTT draws and how fast he draws them, because that's really the card that can keep you in games. It just provides so much value.
Yeah. Granted, Flame Spitter is exactly what he wants for this
Yeah.
situation.
As NyCkiTT, do you draw here? Do you +1? Like, it's kind of desperate. He really needs mana and he really needs cards.
I think you +1 as the burn player. I think that's more relevant to the cards that you draw.
I like his positioning. If Alvendor didn't have a removal spell here, he would probably have had to deploy a creature all the way at home. And as I've said, burn just needs time. Yeah, at this point. Like, it doesn't matter if you're 20 mana ahead of them if all your mana worth of creatures is at home and you're on 0. But as it happens, Alvendor does have the ciphers as a really good answer.
Yeah. Even as Alvendor, I'm looking at +1 being the best option. Just Axe Grinder, Ciphers,